What is going on, guys? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. And we have an amazing guest today. One who is an expert in the personal branding space. One who has a tremendous amount of experience, knowledge, expertise. When we connected, I believe we connected on LinkedIn, and one of his colleagues said, "You have to have this guy on the show." I checked out his website. I looked at some of his credentials. I said, holy mackerel, yes, absolutely, this guy's got to be on the show. So without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Colby Jubenville to the show. What is going on, my friend?
Henry, how you doing? How are you? It's good to be with you. It's good to be with your audience. Excited to share some ideas with you today, and I appreciate you forcing me to come out live on Facebook. This is my first time to do this, so I'm a little nervous. I'm a newbie, but
you'll be fine.
I know that if you're from Jersey, and I got to know your favorite Bon Jovi song, and we'll really test just how Jersey you really are.
I love it.
I'll just go and let you know mine's a Runaway. So
that's a great song. So here's a fun fact. I actually worked with Bon Jovi for about 4 years, doing all of his promotional work for 2 of his world tours. And we actually connected through his little brother and did a lot of work with, actually have a CD that I produced, not produced the music, but I produced the album cover to cover for one of his private events. It was an amazing experience. Yeah. And it's funny that you bring him up. People ask me all the time. That was sort of my claim to fame. I asked by 15 minutes.
Hey, so the next question is, when are you and I going to hang out with, John? So okay.
I got a funny story about that. If we have time later on, I will share that with you and the audience.
We'll just send in this podcast, and then we'll get in from there. I mean, we're rock stars too, right? Here we go. All right, I'm ready.
I love it. All right, so real quick, before we get started, I always like to ask my guests, how did you get to where you're at today? I always like to hear the backstory and sort of the why behind what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I was born to 2 educators that taught me the way you take on the world is to become an educator and marry an educator and educate other people. And that works all the way up to you want these things called lifestyle and freedom. They don't pay teacher the income. You do it for the outcome, right? And so at that point, I was working in higher education, continue to do today, love what I do at MTSU. And there's an old saying about college professors. I'm going to see if you can finish it. You know the saying, those who can do and those who can't what? You know it?
No.
Teach. Those who can do and those who can't teach. And those who can't teach PE. That's the old Woody Allen joke.
So, I love it.
And so at some point in my life, I looked back and I thought to myself, I've committed my whole life to this career of coaching and teaching. And they make these statements like, those who can do and those who can't teach. But here's what I said to myself. But if you can do and teach, you get paid for your value and not your time. And so if you look at yourself and what you've built and the platform that you've built, not only can you do it, but you can teach it. And those that can do and teach get paid for your value and not your time. And so my wife came home one day and said, she was a teacher, and said, I don't want to teach anymore. And so I said, quit. And she said, well, what are we going to do financially? And I said, I don't know. But if you don't quit, we'll never know. And so I wrote the letter not thinking she would sign it. She signed it and turned it in and quit. And here's the vulnerable piece to this story, the backstory. For 18 months, I started this little company called Red Herring Innovation and Design. I had no idea who my ideal customer was. I had no idea what my unique value was. I had no idea how to build proposals. I had no idea how to build a business. And so I spent 18 months failing miserably until I woke up one day And I ask myself, what do I have to do to get better? And the very first thing that we realize is that to get better, we got to get around people better than us. And so once I started to do that, once I started to ask the hard questions, once you move past this excessive individualism that we all have at some point in our lives and realize that we can depend on other people to help us not make the same mistakes they did, then I started to have success. And my success early on was simple. It was with a guy named John Floyd, Old South Properties. They're the largest independent home builder in the state of Tennessee. And one of the things that I teach people is when people help you at the crossroads of your life, you remember them forever. And John gave me a chance when nobody else would. He went from selling 750 homes to selling 150 homes during the economic downturn. John's one of the most committed leaders to his people, to his process, to his community. And we had very dark moments where we would sit in a boardroom and worry that the company would continue to exist. And I can still remember he said, Colby, I take care of all these people and they rely on me to do that. And so I think he fired me probably 7 times over 10 years. I think we got into many, many fights. The last time that he hired me back, I said, you can't, I'm on a lifetime contract. You can't fire me ever again. and so we helped him build a brand position around Old South Built It. And it allowed him to own the region when the national builders started to roll in. So what did Old South build? Well, it built the community. It built my neighborhood. It built my house. And it built my future. And that gave the salespeople a framework to use that led me to my first big consulting gig that led me to continue to find the success that I've found over the last 17 years in doing this.
What a hell of a story. I mean, so there you go, guys. There is no such thing as an overnight success. There is no such thing as, a quick fix when it comes to building brand and building business. You're going to fail miserably. I mean, I've been in this game 10 years and, I still have my losses. I still have my trials and tribulations, even at this level. I mean, things have gotten easier, and it's a lot easier to get through those little hiccups nowadays, but you're always going to have them. And if you don't have them, I would question to see whether or not you're even trying hard enough, because if you're not coming out of the comfort zone, if you're not getting around people that are better than you, how the hell are you ever going to get better? I mean, it sounds so elementary. It sounds so no-brainer, but that's something that I did when I was going through my stuff in 2013 and 14 is I got around people that were way better than me, damn near intimidating. And I got it all of a sudden it felt normal. Like it wasn't, those people were just so happy to help. I was blessed. So I want to get into the real bulk of the conversation. We were talking offline for a bit before we went live, and I want to get into the bulk of the conversation because we were talking about how the competition is tough these days. It's very hard to stand out. It's like a rat race to the bottom. I see tons of my clients before coming on board, trying to discount this and discount that, and they're trading time for money, and they have no time with their families, and they're running 20 hours a day, and they don't have shit to show for it at the end. You know.
Can you say that on Facebook?
You can. If I couldn't curse, I couldn't talk. I'll tell you right now.
Well, you're from Jersey. I mean, that's.
But I will say that, a lot of businesses, even graphic design. I mean, we were talking offline, like I said, graphic design has been such a commodity. It's been commoditized, and you can get a monkey to design you a website now. But will that website make you money? Will it have the proper strategy? Will it have the proper positioning, the tone, the voice? Will it be able to make money for you? All of these things, right? So getting out of the commodity race and getting into the value-based, positioning, you have a phenomenal framework framework that you've put together. And I'd like for you to kind of discuss that with us today.
Yeah, I wrote a book several years ago with a guy named Michael Bird called Zebras and Cheetahs. And it was the subtitle was "Look Different, Stay Agile, or Survive the Business Jungle." It was published by Wiley and Sons. It's got a lime green cover. I tell people all the time, I think my books are good, but I wrote it. But the covers are awesome. So it's a lime green cover with the combination of a zebra and cheetah. And that whole book was about how to get paid for value and not time. Mm. And so if you think, let me back up and say this. There's a clip from Jerry Maguire. I'm dating myself here. You look like a little younger than me. Do you know the movie Jerry Maguire?
I do. Show me the money.
There you go. I didn't pay you to do that, but people believe that's the greatest clip in that movie, and it's not. The greatest clip in that movie is when he unveils his mission statement and takes the risk. And the name of the mission statement is "The Things We Think and Do Not Say, the Future of Our Business." And in that mission statement clip, he references his mentor, who says the key to this business is personal relationships. And it made me think about a couple of things. First, it made me think about this: the key to anything, the reason that Henry is successful today, is through personal relationships. The reason that I can sit on the campus of MTSU, where one guy committed a 7-figure gift so that I could coach and teach people on an ever-increasing stage, is because of personal relationships. The minute that you subscribe to this idea that personal relationships are the key, then the question then becomes, who intentionally teaches us how to build personal relationships, and how can you do it? Well, you do it by first understanding your personal brand. And so people all the time say what you just said. You've got to stand out. You've got to differentiate. You've got to be different. It's not about fitting in. It's about standing out. And everybody shakes their head and says, yeah, that's the case. But no one can tell you how to do it. And so I think the first big takeaway for your audience today is, I'm going to show you how to do it. And it starts right here. There's a book called Being Michael Porter. Michael Porter is one of the foremost experts in strategy in the United States, in business, in the world. And he said, I read books. I have ADD. So I read books until I find one idea. And once I find that one idea, I master that idea and I put it down and I go to the next book. That's just the way I work. Mm-hmm. And so I'm reading through this book, and about 30 pages in, there's this beautiful sentence, and it says, at the heart of competition is strategy. And at the heart of strategy, it's not about being the best. It's about the unique value that you deliver. And that hit me right between the eyes. I went to my whiteboard and I wrote it up on there, and I said to myself, so then if that's the case, if it's not about being the best, because everybody is going to say that they're the best, and it is about unique value, then what is unique value made of? What framework can we provide unique value in a way that Henry's people can go back tomorrow and go, Henry said these 3 things to us, because we know in phenomenology, human beings can only learn 3 things at a time. So he said these 3 things to us, and we need to focus on them. So I wrote up on, in terms of unique value, I wrote unique perspective, unique education, and unique experience. You want to build your personal brand? It starts with how you see what you do. That's unique perspective. I was born to 2 teachers that taught me that I needed to become an educator, marry an educator, and educate other people. At my core, I am an educator. When I go and do a keynote, it's a classroom. It's not a keynote. People are tired of sitting in a room, having somebody stand on a stage and read stuff to them. So when I walk out, I'll say, have you ever seen the clip? And we'll do the whole thing. And I'll say, the things we think and do not say, the future of our business. And I'll say, so here's a note card, write on it the things that you think about, but you're not willing to say. Because if we're going to spend an hour together, let's talk about things that matter to you. Mm-hmm. So that's unique perspective. It's how you see what you do. Mm-hmm. Unique education are the unique educational experiences that happen for you along the way that give you that struggle, that help you think better, communicate better, and make better decisions. So I went to Millsaps College in Jackson, Mississippi. It was a liberal arts school. If anybody had told me that you had to take oral comprehensive exams to graduate from that school, I would have never gone. But I didn't ask. And I played football for a guy named Tommy Raniger, who made me practice the first 2 weeks without a helmet, who challenged me every day, who I would go in every August 27th and try to quit, who got the whole team together against Sewanee, and he said, boys, and I always pointed like this. He never pointed like this. It was always like this. And he said, boys, do y'all know why we lost the game today? He said, because he called me Corey, because nobody would name their son Colby. He said, because Corey don't know how to play defensive tackle. So if you see him, and I'm standing 10 feet in front of him right next to the bus. If you see him, tell him, Corey, you lost the game for us. And this guy who was on my team, he comes up to me and he says, Colby, Coach Raniger only picks on people he likes. In hell, he must love you. Now, I share all that with you to say this, Henry. That unique education at Millsaps taught me one thing, and it's part of my personal brand. And it's how to use adversity to accelerate growth. And that's one of the things that I teach my clients how to do, is how to use adversity to accelerate growth. So there's unique perspective, unique education, and unique experience. And unique experience is how you connect to what you do. So the unique experience that I have is that I started a football team in Jackson, Mississippi. No phones, no computers, no players, no uniforms, no fields, just a dream. We ended up ranked in the top 20 over the last 4 weeks of the season. And I went through an experience that changed my life forever. And I could give you story after story after story, but I'll give you my favorite story. Norman Joseph, who hired me, I called him. And I said, Coach Joseph, my name's Colby Jubenville. You don't know me, but I'm going to call you every day until you call me back. And he finally called me back about 45 days later, and he said, I'll meet you at a Waffle House in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I want you to think about this. You've interviewed for your first job, right? You remember what that felt like, how scared you were? Imagine interviewing at a Waffle House. It's like interviewing in an Exxon bathroom. It's just gross. It's scary. I mean, you're already nervous, and now you have this funk around you from all the grease and whatever else from the Waffle House. And so we get to the end of it. He says, Colby, I figured out two things. Number one, you don't know anything about coaching offensive line, which is what he's going to hire me for. He said, but number two, I think if I gave you the opportunity, you go out and recruit us the kids that could help us win the games. I said, Coach, I know I can. And they'll be all conference and they'll stay 4 years. I know what it takes. And he said, well, I can't pay you now. The budget cycle doesn't start for 6 months, but I can let you live in a condemned dorm. And I said, I am on board. That's unique experience. You tell those three stories, unique education, unique perspective, unique education, unique experience to somebody else, they can't help but want to build a personal relationship with you. And if they don't, the good news is, just like we talked on the front end, that's not your ideal customer. Here's what I figured out. My ideal customer from developing this framework is somebody, usually a male, usually doesn't have to be, that is somewhere between 40 and 60, that has had some success in their life and that has fallen off a little bit and had a coach that helped them along the way. I find those things out along the way through this discussion. We're going to put something together. That's how powerful understanding your personal brand and how it intersects with personal relationship can be for you.
I love it. I love it. So I want to dive into some of the mistakes that folks are making when it comes to building brand, building business in 2018. I want to dive into that for a second and talk about how we can overcome some of those mistakes so that we can get to where we want to be faster.
Yeah.
And so what are some of those mistakes that folks are making?
Well, there's the biggest one is overcomplicating it. Look behind you and read what it says. You become what you think about the most. The climb to the top is worth the view. The shortest story in the history of mankind is written by Hemingway. Do you know what it is? For sale, baby shoes never worn. If I'd known that, I would have written my 10th grade, book report on it and been done. But here's the powerful takeaway for your audience, is that If you learn to communicate in short, simple, compelling, emotional, powerful ways, people will connect with you. The most basic need of people is to connect and feel connected. If people are going to talk about brands, then they damn sure better understand what they are. And brands are simple. Don't make them difficult. Brand is simply defined as this: a promise delivered in an experience.
Exactly.
We're going to help you uncover two things. What is your promise, and how do you deliver it? Then we're going to help you tell a story around a set of core values that's easy to share.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it complicated. I learned all this from my good friend Joe Calloway, who you need to have on this show, who wrote a book called Be the Best at What Matters Most, the Only Strategy You'll Ever Need. I called Joe and I said, damn, Joe, your books are so good. You don't even have to read them because the title's so good. And he said, I know, Colby, isn't that cool? And I said, it's very cool. I wish I could do it. You know, I said, look, chapter 2, the name of chapter 2 in that book is It's Not That Complicated. I think the chapter's 2 pages. I said, Joe, you're a genius. I mean, who thinks this stuff up? You know, you write a book. Well, the chapter's got to be 60 pages. It can't be 2. Be the best at what matters most. The only strategy you'll ever need. Henry, if you and I get into a business relationship, I'm going to look across from you and I'm going to say, Henry, listen to me. I want to know one thing before we wrap this up. And it's the most important question for you and me. What matters most to you? Because once I understand what matters most to you, I'm going to be the best at it every day. And that's the filter we're going to use for every decision that we make. Yeah. So you don't have to make it complicated. Mm-hmm. Brand is promise that's delivered an experience. Define the promise, deliver the experience. I'll give you an example. People go to Walmart because it's a workhorse. They go to Target because it's a show horse. They go to those places because they know why they exist.
It's so powerful. I mean, again, I see so many folks just over, should I do this? Does this landing page need this? Does that need this? Like all these little things that like completely put them into a paralysis. Yeah. And you got to forget all of that for a second. Look big picture, look at the long-term game, look at the perspective and say, is this on brand? Is this what I'm going to do? I love how simplified you've made the communication of branding, the definition of branding, but the key word there is experience. And I want to dive into that for a little bit, and then we could start to turn the corner and wrap up. But right. I believe that the experience is what is going to help you differentiate yourself, or really have you specializing in a specific area of expertise. And if you're not specializing in a specific area of expertise, then you become that commodity, right? That they're constantly pitching, they're constantly trying to outdo and outshine the other. But when you become that specialist,
yeah,
everything starts to change. You feel the wind on your back instead of on your face. And opportunities start to open up for you. So I want to talk about experience for a second and go kind of deep into how to create that brand experience that really gets noticed and gets identified, and how you connect that experience to your audience.
Well, you came to the right place, because I have thought long and hard about this. And so let's first start with the whole specialization concept. Uh-huh. You pay your podiatrist a whole lot more than your general practitioner for a reason, because they're specialists. So part of building your personal brand is saying, my name is Colby Jubenville, and I specialize in helping people and organizations become better known, better understood, and better understand the unique value that they deliver. There's your elevator. Mm-hmm. Then the second statement that you use in building experience with other people is a statement that I call the zebra statement, that's in our book, Zebras and Cheetahs. And the zebra statement is your uniqueness. And so we use a concept called collective passion that looks at the relationship between the organization, the customer, and the employee. The way I came up with collective passion was I was watching the University of Alabama, as I do every Saturday with my son, Jack, the greatest football program in the country. who, by the way, has all of its talent pipeline come from St. Paul's High School in Mobile, Alabama, which is where I went to high school. So I call it the womb of greatness. Now, we were 2-8 when I played. We beat both the Christian schools, Mobile Christian and Briarwood Christian. But these people today graduate people like A.J. McCarron and Jake Coker and Mark Barron, and the list goes on and on. So I tell people we set the foundation for greatness there. But, God, now I lost my point. I got so wrapped up.
We were talking about unique experience. You talked about your elevator pitch, and then
okay, thank you. And so then thank you for keeping me on track there.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that second statement is your zebra statement. That's about your uniqueness, and mine's about collective passion. And then the third statement is the outcome statement, and as you know, that's the most important statement, because people in an experience-based economy will make decisions about spending time and money with you based on the outcome. Has my time and money been well spent by spending time with you? And so the outcome statement that I came up with looks like this, because so here's what happens. When we become better known, we want more customers, and who doesn't want that? When we become better understood, we get the right customers, and we've all worked with the wrong customers, and that's miserable. And we better understand the unique value that we deliver, we get the right customers for life. So there's a very simple 3-step process that looks at elevator, zebra, and outcome, focused on experience. So that's one side of it personally. Let's talk about it on a global level. I helped that same home building company build an experience-based sales process. And I asked myself, I started to do research in experience. And here's one of the cool key takeaways I found. And that's that it happens in snapshots. Experiences happen in snapshots, not movies. So if you take that idea and you break it down into snapshots, then what are the snapshots you want to take away? And so the 4 key snapshots that I decided to focus on in building experience-based sales processes were core business, emotional touch points, defining moment, and celebration of the customer. If you want to build a story, the very first question that you ask is, what is our core business? How are we most profitable, and how can we tell a story around that? So with this home building company, we came up with the idea that new homes are better. Henry, you don't want to buy a house that's old, that has somebody else's toenails in the carpet. You don't want that. So Henry, do you believe that new homes are better? Colby, I believe new homes are better. And so we went through, and the emotional touch points were see new, feel new, live new, and you showed them the emotional touch points of buying a new home. And so the defining moment were the keys that went back and forth, and the celebration of the customer was the customer loyalty program and the events that they had for their customers and their communities. So the minute that we gave that simple framework to build within, it gave everybody in the company a story to tell around new homes are better, see new, feel new, live new, that passing of the keys, and then the celebration of the customer.
That's powerful. Again, the outcome, the solution, the result, right? What are folks buying? They're buying all of the above. And I see just way too many folks paying attention to features, you know, and people don't care about that. They care about, like you said before, I want to highlight this. Has my time with you changed my life?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no? And if it's no, that's why you're not getting any business.
Yeah.
Like it's that simple. And so I love your simplistic approach on all of this. And damn, you're just a wealth of information.
Well, and
I love it. I love it.
Well, and it's personal relationships. Do not sell anymore on product benefits. They don't care.
No. One of the biggest things my mentor had taught me, was this: the quality of your questions will determine how your audience perceives your value.
That's true.
If you're asking terrible questions, you're gonna get terrible answers. And I remember he slapped me dead across the face the one day on one of our calls. He said, do I have permission to be brutally honest? I said, yes. He said, you ask the same damn questions that 5 million other designers ask. What the hell makes you so different?
Yeah.
And I sat there and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I've learned this the hard way. I'm even worse than you were. I'd go in there not asking any questions, and I was just going to convince them to buy based on what I was going to tell them. Until finally somebody said, if I was going to ask a question, if I were you, here's the question I would ask. If you could wave a magic wand and have what you wanted 2 years from now, what would that be?
Yeah, it's a great question.
They'll give you everything you want to know.
It's a great question. That's in my script. That's in my daily. I started asking friends and family that, and it's amazing the conversation that you actually get from it. And I actually have Jonathan Parker coming on the show not too long he's scheduled for tomorrow, but we had to reschedule. But I tell you, he's a conversationalist, and he is the level of conversation you have with this guy is extremely impressive.
Well, do you think he's better than me? Because that's going to hurt my feelings.
You're pretty good. Let me say, you're going to give him a run for his money. I'll tell you right now.
He's not from Mobile.
No. He's from the South, though. Not as deep as you, though. But
yeah,
he's got a great conversation about asking certain questions, and why things happen, not how things happen. And, when he talks about that, it makes you think like, holy crap, you've just gone from surface level to 8 layers deep in 10 seconds. And now people start opening up to you and really tell you what's going on. And that's the transformation people want, in my opinion. That deep connection, it comes back to relationship. Like you said, if you can build that deeper relationship with those folks, you're going to win. And it's going to be with the right people for a very, very long time. So what are you trying to build?
Right.
That's the question. So this is phenomenal stuff. This is fantastic stuff. So Cole, we gotta wrap this up. But for those folks that want to learn a little bit more about what you do, real quick before I forget though, you had a quote on your website that I freaking put in my Instagram story immediately. And it was, if you are not willing to be coached, you will be left behind.
Yeah, that comes straight from Zebras and Cheetahs. It's the coaching revolution that says you are a coach, you have a coach, or you don't want to be coached. And if you don't want to be coached, you're going to be left behind.
Man,
I would really, if you could give me 3 more minutes, I would love to tell you one final story to wrap it up.
Please.
So Joe Calloway, that needs to be on your show, is a huge mentor of mine, and he tells his story, and it's probably the most powerful story I've ever heard when it comes to personal brands and personal relationships. And there's a tire company in Middle Tennessee, and if you go around Middle Tennessee and you say to people, who do you take your car to when you need new tires, and they'll yell out discount tires. And, in Joe's version, he'll say, was this rehearsed? Did I ask you to do this? And the guy says, no. And so he'll say, why did you, I'll say, why did you choose discount tires? And they'll just yell out, because they run to the car. When you pull into the parking lot, they run to the car. And so when I tell this story, what I say is, when I'm down on my confidence, when I'm struggling a little bit, I don't go home, because when I go home and walk through the door, nobody cares. Kids don't care. Kids are on iPads. Kids are watching TV. Mom's got something going on. But when I go to Discount Tire, they run to the car. So my confidence is picked up because they care about me in such a way. And so the powerful takeaway that he talks about is, he says, I don't imagine that came from the top. I don't imagine that came from corporate. He said, I imagine there's 3 guys. They've worked hard all day. They got grease on their face. They're sitting around the water cooler and they're drinking water. And they say, we sell tires. They're roll round, they have a hole in the middle. There's good, better, and best. How can we do it differently? And I imagine the guy with the most grease on his face, that works the hardest all day, that's sort of dazed and confused from working so hard all day, says, I don't know, maybe we can run to the car or something. And the takeaway, Henry, is so powerful that Joe says, and I'll never forget it. He said, am I running to the car? Am I demonstrating to you that in this moment, that you are the most important thing to me? And I think if you look at the intersection of personal brands and personal relationships, is, am I running to the car?
Yeah.
Am I demonstrating to you that in this moment, you're the most important thing to me?
Boom. There you have it, guys. We got to leave on that note, because that was such a powerful closing and ending. I want you guys that are listening and watching to really, really challenge yourself and take that story alone and ask yourself, are you running to the car? That's awesome. Colby, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and just sharing your stories and your expertise and your knowledge and just these powerful, powerful points that you've demonstrated today, and how you could get out of the commodity race and more into the unique value positioning, with your business. And I just think that you just provided so many aha moments for our listeners today. I can't thank you enough for spending the 37 minutes with us today and really sharing all of that with us.
Well, hey, thank you. Thank you for what you do for the industry. Thank you for modeling the fact that you can wake up and broadcast yourself. And I look forward to seeing you out on the road sometime in the future, my friend.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Next time I come down to Nashville, we're grabbing a beer.
Let's make it happen.
There you have it, folks. Real quick, before we wrap up, just some housekeeping things. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet or to the channel yet, please do. If you haven't shared this podcast or channel with a friend or a colleague, I invite you to do that. And I thank you in advance for all of that. And if you appreciate and love and are loving the value that we're providing here, please drop us a quick written review on iTunes. You don't know how far that goes for me personally, to help me get that fire and keep that fire stoked and continue to bring you as much heat and benefit and solution to your challenges when it comes to building a brand and building a business in 2018 and beyond. So thank you all for watching and listening, and I will catch you on the next episode. Take care.